Hi guys, welcome back to GarageTech. This is episode 4 in this series of replacing your spark plugs. So thank you very much guys if you've joined the whole journey. I've deliberately split this down into 4 videos because it does take quite a bit of time. So if you've watched all the previous ones, thanks for joining. You might want to just fast forward this bit to get to the good bits, but just to explain if you've just come to this video, I've split this into 4 videos because it takes quite a bit of time to actually get to the spark plugs to get them out. This is on the Porsche Cayman S, so the generation 2, 3.4. And the first things you need to do is obviously jack the back of the car up, take the wheel arch liner out, take a heat shield out of place, remove the coil packs, and then you can obviously get to the spark plugs. So if you haven't seen the other videos, go back and watch those first if you need to. Or if you just want to just see this straight away, then crack on, it's absolutely fine. But leave it down to you guys. But obviously to remove the spark plugs and the spark plug size, it's a 5/8 spark plug socket or a 16mm. It's got a little wobbly bit on the end, my one, so it just gives you a little bit of flexibility when you're getting inside to actually get to the spark plugs. Obviously you will need some form of extension because you need to get in quite far, and obviously you need some ratchets, etc. I'd also recommend you use a torque wrench to tighten the spark plugs. Now the torque setting is between 20 to 30 Newton meters, so it does depend what spark plug you're using, because if you're using a different one to the recommended manufacturer, it may be different, so check the manufacturer of the spark plug, the torque setting for it. Okay guys, we'll get straight into it. I'll show you both the near side and the off side, so you can see both sides being done. Okay, thanks guys. So obviously to change the spark plugs, if you've got a spark plug socket, then I recommend you use one. They typically have like a little rubber kind of grommet on the inside, and it just helps grip the spark plug. Obviously this has also got a bit of a wobbly end on it as well, just helps a little bit of movement. These are 16mm. Shouldn't be mega tight. Certainly wouldn't recommend using a power tool to take these out. Should be fine to do it by hand. Okay, so that's one spark plug out. As you can see, there we go. So it's not particularly that worn at all. But these are the Bosch, the genuine ones. Now I'm actually going to be replacing mine with Denso Iridium power plugs. Made another video about them. Go check them out. There's 2 different other types that are available. You can have the Iridium power or the Iridium tough. The tough ones obviously last a lot longer, up to 100,000 kilometers, whereas the Iridium power ones are rated between 15 to 20,000 kilometers. So a lot less, but the tough ones obviously cost more. So that's pretty straightforward. What I'm going to do is now take the other 2 out for this side, and then I'll put the new ones in. The last one's a little bit trickier because it's at a bit of an angle. So if you've got sockets with what I call a bit of a wobbly end on them, you'll probably fare a bit better. If not, you might need to just get the right sort of size extension in place, but you can just about get to it from right at the side. There we go. So that was the last one. So these are my new plugs. These are the Iridium power ones. by Denso. They're about £7.50 each. If you want the kind of genuine Bosch ones, you can get those from independent part suppliers. They're around about £4.50 each. Or if you get them from Porsche direct, they're about 15 quid each. Just to show you what they look like side by side. So obviously when you look at the tips of these, they are very different, because the tips on the new ones are what they call iridium alloy material, which they're not on the standard Bosch ones. And obviously you've got like the 4 tips on here on the Bosch ones, so you can't actually really measure the gap on those. But the idea of having the 4, it just increases the wear on it, so it will last a lot longer. Whereas obviously on this iridium one, you've only got 1. That's why it's only rated to 15 to 20,000 kilometers, compared to these the standard ones, which I think they're about 60,000 kilometers. Now, obviously the spark plugs come from the factory already preset with the gap set, so you shouldn't need to test them with a feeler gauge. If you're worried about it, then of course you can. I've already checked these all already, so I'm not going to bother doing that now. But they're already preset, so you shouldn't have to adjust them. If you're getting them out of the box and they look like they're miles out, or they're not anywhere near where they should be, then I'll just send them straight back. I wouldn't even bother trying to adjust them if they're nowhere near where they should be, because it means then they're damaged. Because they are, as I said, they're preset from the factory. So what I do then is I'll put the spark plug back inside the socket, and then gently feed it in. What you could go ahead and do, if you're interested, you can go and do a bore scope check. So I've just done one of those myself, so check that out in one of the other videos. It's pretty straightforward, but to be honest, it's quite hard to see a lot. You need to obviously certainly know what you're looking at to try and identify if you've got an issue there or not. And your cylinders, or your pistons, need to be right on the bottom dead centre to have a good look, because it normally starts scoring at the bottom. Not so much of an issue on the Gen 2 as it is on the M97 engines. But obviously whilst you're here doing this, it's worth just having a look. I've got the bore scope camera for 25 quid. Gives me that little bit of peace of mind. Now tightening these up, they don't need to be mega tight. I'm going with what Denso recommend rather than the Porsche recommendation, because obviously these are Denso plugs, so slightly different. They recommend between 20 to 30 Newton meters. If you haven't got a torque wrench, then it's tighten by hand and then go between a quarter and half a turn. So just goes to show they don't need to be mega tight. In fact, even 30 Newton meters is really, it's not a lot. So you certainly don't want to over tighten them, because obviously the washer that's on them are designed to close up by a certain amount. So if you are concerned, you're worried, you're not that sure, use a torque wrench, and obviously make sure that the torque wrench is calibrated to the correct setting as well. That's it. There's one in. So I'm just doing it up by hand. There shouldn't be tight going in at all. 100% would not recommend you screwing them in with a power tool. Doesn't take that long to screw them in. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and give it about half a turn. That's it. Just put a rag over the caliper so it doesn't scratch the caliper up. Okay, so now that that plugs out, we'll go for the next one. Okay, so I'll then do the last one, cylinder number 1. Now I'm just using my extensions with kind of like what I call a wobbly end on it, because it just makes it a little bit easier when you're at a little bit of an angle like this. You can get to it without, but it just make it a little bit easier. And it's probably going to be a bit harder releasing this one due to the angle that you're at. Just going to try and bring you around here a little bit so you can see a bit more. There we go, that was the last one. Cylinder number 1. So these plugs have done around 15,000 miles since they were last changed. So I'm going to start with cylinder 3, closest one to me. Guide it in nice and gentle. You don't want to damage the end at all whilst doing this. So that's a quarter. and a bit. Don't need to go any tighter than that. Now if your socket gets stuck in there like mine has, that's where you might need a pair of long nose pliers to help get it out. Just a pair of long nose pliers so it can reach in there. Sometimes it's worth just spraying a bit of WD-40 or such in the end of your socket so it doesn't happen. So there we go, that's all the spark plugs back in. Next is put the coil packs back. Okay then guys, so that's it then, that's the spark plugs in and out. Obviously the next step for you now is to drop the car back down, obviously put the wheels on and start it up. I'd recommend you probably start it up before you jack it back down and take your wheels off, just to make sure that everything's running right. But that's it then guys. Thank you for joining me on this journey of replacing your spark plugs or your coil packs. I hope you enjoyed it. So if you have, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and take care.